Hey everybody, just raising the energy up in here. Today I'm going to talk to you about rocking the vote. So it only felt appropriate to play a little bit of rock music before I got started. Really hoping I'm not losing my audience with the choice of music, but it got me a little hype, and I don't really do rock music, so there. But before we talk about, so we're going to talk about rocking the vote. I hope you all know, and if you don't know, you're going to know that early voting in Georgia starts October 17th to November 4th. This election season is super, super, super important, which is why I'm here, because I want to talk to you guys about why it's so important. But before I get started, I am Dr. Kanika. I'm a board-certified internal medicine physician. I'm also a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant. I work with organizations that are committed to creating opportunities for communities of color. So, as a physician, health is my thing, equity is my thing. And so we cannot let election season pass and not come and talk about what's going on. I know in a lot of spaces, we're not supposed to talk about, politics, especially on a platform like LinkedIn, but here's the reality. If we care about equity, we got to talk about this, because our politics matter. Our politics determine access to healthcare. Our politics determine, fair sentencing and the laws that are in place, policing. It determines our education system, what our kids can't be taught in school. I never would have thought that politics would mean this much, but they do. So the reason I'm here, I'm not here for those folks who are going to vote. Their calendars have been marked since 6 months ago for voting purposes, and that they already know exactly what they're wearing to the polls. Okay. Not here for those people. I'm here for the people who they might know there's an election coming up. They'll probably vote in it. They just have more important things going on right now, like working every day, taking care of their kids, putting food on the table, like that kind of stuff. And so this election thing, maybe we know it's important, but in the grand scheme of things, hopefully I'll get there. Maybe I won't, right? So this is who I'm talking to. These are the people I'm like, listen, we got to rock the vote. And if you are that person and you're like, I don't see how this, I got more important things to do. I hope by the time I finish here, you'll understand that this is one of the most important things you can do. It's just as important as going to work every single day, just as important as getting your baby off to school, just as important as paying your light bill. This is so important. And the reason I know it's important that I come here and I talk about this thing is because I was you. Midterm election, what's a midterm election? I did not know what a midterm election was until maybe 8 years ago. I think I voted in my first gubernatorial governor's election maybe 8 years ago. I wasn't really checking for midterm elections, governors, and all of that stuff. I did vote every 4 years in the presidential election, and then of course I just probably voted the ticket, and that's what I did. That was my civic duty. I did it. I was good for another 4 years. And it wasn't until about 8 years ago that my daughter was actually in school with President Carter's grandson, who was running for governor of Georgia. And so getting to know him a little bit, my husband did a building and grounds day with him where they clean up the preschool and they had a beer afterwards. It was like, oh, these are real people running for politics. These are your neighbors. These are people who have ideas that they want to do things to make things better. These are like, maybe I should pay attention. So we voted that year. But I will tell you, it wasn't until 4 years later when Stacey Abrams was running that I really started to pay attention. Because honestly, before then, it was like one white man over another white man, and I don't really know what the difference is. I know like one's Republican, one's Democrat, but for me, they were just both white men who were looking out for other white men and trying to maintain the current, power structure, right? I was trying to feed my family, go to work, and do my thing, right? That politics stuff really didn't really feel like it really pertained to me until Stacey. So I'm not going to talk about Stacey and, who you should vote for, but I'm going to say for me as a Black woman, Stacey Abrams was the first time I had seen a person who might represent me. I had seen a person who I could look at and say, oh, okay. Where there was a clear delineation between who she was and who she wasn't, and who she was, what she stood for and what she didn't stand for. And it was also the first time that it really became clear to me that politicians make decisions that affect my everyday life. Not some esoteric, I'm raising taxes, I'm cutting taxes kind of stuff. We're talking about my everyday life. And I was like, oh, I need to pay attention, And so when I started paying attention to Stacey, running for governor, I also started kind of paying attention to the other people on the ticket. Like, wait a minute, the sheriff, that person's important. The judges, those people are important. Like, those are the people who really impact my every single day life, right? The ones, the sheriff, the judges, like all those things. And it made me realize, like, I haven't been paying attention, and I know a lot of people haven't been paying attention, because sometimes it's just in the day in and day out, it's hard to see how this matters, especially if you were a person of color. And so that's why for me, I'm like, this is for my Black folks. This is for my people who are like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to vote. I know my ancestors died for my right to vote, but like, does it really matter? And I'm here to say, yes, it matters. And I'll also say, like, if you've been because I know there are people watching me who are not Black folks, and they don't understand how anybody could not vote. They do not understand how you cannot understand how important this is. And what I will say is, when you've been disenfranchised your entire life, from the moment you come out of the womb to present day, whether it's in school, whether it's in the workplace, you're being told, you're getting messages either directly or indirectly that you don't matter. Those things get internalized. You're getting images on TV that say you don't matter. You're not even seen on TV in any positive way that says you do matter. And so if you're constantly being told directly or indirectly that you don't matter, then you're not going to magically one day think, oh, my one little vote matters, right? It's just one little vote. Like, what, it's not going to matter. But the reality is that it does matter. And that's the secret that I'm coming to tell you, is like, your one little vote matters, especially when it's next to your mama's vote and your sister's vote and your friend's vote and your neighbor's vote and then my vote and my friend's vote. You put all our votes together and all of a sudden we matter, right? And if we didn't matter, if voting did not matter, they wouldn't be trying so hard to keep us from voting, right? Every time you turn around, they're redrawing the lines, trying to, rig things so that they can get the person they want in the office. They're trying to make it more difficult to vote. You need to have this, you need to have that. If you've been to jail or prison, you lose your right to vote, and then they try to put as many of us in prison as they possibly can. And so when you think about all the ways there are people trying to disenfranchise Black people, and we have systems and laws that are placed to keep us from voting since the beginning, but it's even happening now, then you have to say, you know what? I may even not even know why it's that important to vote, but the fact that they're trying so hard to keep me from voting is enough to let me know I need to show up. But I'm not going to just leave you with like, you should vote because they don't want you to. That's one reason. But the other reason that you need to get out there and vote is because it matters. The politicians make the laws that determine how we move through space. The politicians, they create policies. These policies determine whether we have access to hospitals when we need them. It determines whether we have access to physicians when we need them. It determines whether your kid goes to a quality public school or whether they go to one that doesn't have hot water and books that are, within the past decade or two. This is the type of thing that matters when COVID came and there were schools that were able to give every single one of the kids in their school a Chrome laptop or Chromebook. And then there were schools where they did not have the capacity to do that. It's because of policy. It's because of policy that determined where our dollars would be spent. And this was determined by politicians. And so politicians control the money. And if you control the money, you control the funding, you control what happens. That politician controls whether there's any affordable housing for you to live in. That politician controls anything you need. That politician determines the policies that determine whether there are, grocery stores in your neighborhood, determines whether there's a bus line that comes through or a train that comes through. The politician determines what neighborhoods get the best resources and what neighborhoods get nothing. So when you I don't know, it's like, no, it matters. And it matters quickly. Like, it's not even one of those things where if I vote this person in the office, I'm not really going to see it, but I'm going to do it not for myself, but for my children and my great-grandchildren. No. You see the effects immediately. Who you put into office will put policies in place that will affect you immediately. And so, and now that I'm paying attention, I see it. And I'm not going to even go through the so many ways that I've been positively affected by the politicians who have been in place or have been negatively impacted. This is not what this is for. I am here to say, I want you to get out there and vote. I want you to recognize that it matters. It matters. And, one of the other things I hear people saying is like, I'm not going to vote. They're all crooked. They're all, politicians are all liars. And no, there's no that's just not the case. And what I will say to people who will look at a politician's platform and say, I can't vote for them because I don't agree with that thing. If I agree with 7 out of 10 things on their platform, that's enough for me. Because the reality is I'm never going to agree with 100% of anything that anybody has to say. I don't agree with 100% of what my husband has to say or my best friend. That's just not realistic. And so it's always interesting to me when people look at politicians and say, oh, I can't vote for him because he supports this or she supports that. But she supports all these other things that you do agree with, but you're just going to just not bother because of the few things you disagree on. The reality is that we're never going to get everything that we want because there's never going to be a politician who's going to think exactly like me, right? There's never going to be a politician who's going to think exactly like you. But having somebody who represents you, who represents your community, who in general is doing the best that they can do within the limitations that are placed upon them in their office to make the world a better place, I'm going to vote for that person, even if we're not 100% in alignment. So I just know there's so many things that keep people from voting, but what I hope that this does is I hope this just makes you kind of think, maybe I should vote. Maybe this is important. If you hadn't even thought about voting this season, knowing that it's starting, and Georgia is a state that needs you to show up. Georgia is a state that is on the precipice of being amazing or could go all the way back to the dark ages. And I want to live in a state that's amazing. I want to live in a state that's progressive. I want to live in a state that's tolerant. I want to live in a state that believes that when we elevate everybody, we truly elevate everybody. Like, nobody rises if we're leaving a whole bunch of people at the bottom, right? Like, all of us should benefit and we should be taking care of one another, and who you vote and put into office will determine whether your public schools have teachers, whether your hospitals have doctors, whether when you call 911, is somebody going to be on the other end to help you and your family out, right? It determines whether there's a place for you to lay your head at night. It determines whether there's industry and jobs in your community because of the policies that are made. And so I want you to make sure that you guys get out and vote October 17th and November 4th. Get out there early. I know some people are like, oh, I like to wait until election day. Don't do it. Don't do it. On election day, you might wake up sick. You might have a flat tire. You might think you're going to come after you get off work, and that's the day you got on deadline and you miss it. This is too important to wait until election day. Vote early. And when you do go vote, take a friend, take a cousin, take an enemy. You know, if you got a car with 4 wheels and you can get somebody somewhere, fill it up and take everybody. If you're going to go out to dinner, drop off at the voting polls and vote and then go to dinner. If you're planning to go for a jog to the voting polls and then go finish your jog. Whatever it takes. Vote, vote, vote. And the other thing I will ask you to do is, if any part of this resonated with you, if you think I said something that somebody else might need to hear, please share this. Share this and vote and take somebody with you. Because this is an amazing opportunity for Georgia. And so I'm going to come back and do another live in a couple of days, because I want to talk a little bit about some of the people who are running for office. You know, I'm going to talk specifically about our hope to be soon governor and also the senatorial race. These are some races that matter. It matters to all Georgians, whether you're white, black, yellow, whatever, right? It matters to all Georgians. But I am telling you, if you are black, if you got a drop of black blood, if you are a black ally, if you are a person who's like says that systemic racism, systemic inequality matters, if you've said those words, then you need to be out there voting. You need to be out there voting. You need to be telling other people to vote. You need to share this video to get somebody else to vote. And you need to be offering rides to people saying, hey, I'm headed to the polls. Anybody need a ride? Because it matters that much in the state of Georgia. We have too much at stake to not show up and vote. And so I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you were motivated, inspired to get out there and vote October 17th and November 4th. And of course, for those of you who don't know me or who joined late, I'm Dr. Kanika. I'm a board certified internal medicine physician. I am also a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategist. I work with organizations who are committed to creating and leveraging opportunities for communities of color. And you can follow me, find me on all social media platforms at Dr. Kanika MD. And my email address is info at Dr. Kanika MD. At Dr. Kanika MD. So great to chat with you guys. And hope to see you at the polls, and hope to see you later this week when I come back and chat a little bit about some of the people who are running for office who I think we should really, really be paying attention to. So see you later.